Today we have gathered and we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we bring our minds together as one, as we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. We are all thankful to our mother, the earth, for she gives us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk about upon her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us as she has from the beginning of time. To our mother, we send greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. We now turn our thoughts to the trees. The earth has many families of trees who have their own instructions and uses. Some provide us with shelter and shade, others with fruit, beauty, and other useful things. Many peoples of the world use a tree as a symbol of peace and strength. With one mind, we greet and thank the tree life. Now our minds are one. We gather our minds to greet and thank the enlightened teachers who have come to help throughout the ages. When we forget how to live in harmony, they remind us of the way we were instructed to live as people. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to these caring teachers. Now our minds are one. Many of you know this wonderful Thanksgiving address, and I'm reading it to you because Doshin and I just came back from a really remarkable time at St. Lawrence University, in which I gave a talk called Caring for Our Only Home, a Buddhist response to the climate crisis. And I started this way, and then I explained this was inspired by Jake Swamp and offered by the Six Nations Indian Museum and the Tracking Project. And it's called Thanksgiving Address, Greetings to the Natural World, Words Before All Else. So here at St. Lawrence University, and anytime we meet, to have this in our heart before we say another word, to really feel this. Words before all else, reminding us, now our minds are one. The time at St. Lawrence University, I'm sure many of you saw this beautiful brochure that was put out called the Tibetan Buddhist Chenrezig Sand Mandala Healing and Compassion in Challenging Times. And we have a few copies around, you can pick them up. But the programs and events started on Monday, October 21st, when there was a formal dedication to begin the sand mandala, which was being created as we were there by two monks from Namgyal Monastery in Ithaca. And to have that opportunity to watch the sand mandala come forth, this cosmic architecture come forth, and to have the chance to stand there as it was being created. And even though it wasn't all finished, nonetheless, we could enter. We felt it so powerfully. And next door to where they were creating it was a shrine room that had been set up for this whole period of time with extraordinary thangkas from the collection of St. Lawrence University. They were really so incredible. And before we left, we were able to join the monks in that shrine room for a meditation. Truly wondrous. So I told the people who were gathered for my talk that October 21st happens to be a very important date for us. As you know, we had our anniversary session the weekend of the 18th, 19th, 20th, and then we celebrated Mandala Day, which is the 21st of every month. And I explained to them this amazing mystical interconnection that is contained within and radiates out from a mandala. We all know the story of Soen Roshi when he was a young monk and creating this particular ceremony for us and joining in bowing across the Pacific Ocean to Nyogen Senzaki every month, the 21st being the special day of reverence on Mount Daibosatsu, where he spent so much time as a young monk. So I told them about it and then repeated words before all else and thanked everybody for putting this all together because it was an extraordinary thing. There are still opportunities for you. It's really easy to get to St. Lawrence University. So this weekend, you missed it already. But November 7th is a discussion with these two monks called How to Achieve Peace in Troubled Times. When are troubled times? Most likely November 7th will be particularly troubled. No matter what the outcome is, it will not be resolved. And then Friday, November 8th, Mandalas in Japanese Buddhism, a lecture by a professor there, Mark McWilliams, and then the ritual dismantling ceremony and walk to Willow Island to disperse the sand in the Grass River on Saturday, November 16th. So if anyone would like to participate in any of those things, please do. And there's also a wonderful indigenous art exhibition that they put together alongside the mandala room. And this is all in Brush Gallery. And it has a quote by Robin Wall Kimmerer, whom some of you know from her very beautiful book, Braiding Sweetgrass. But she said, one of our responsibilities as human people is to find ways to enter into reciprocity with the more than human world. We can do it through gratitude, through ceremony, through land stewardship, science, art, and in everyday acts of practical reverence. That's what we're doing, right? This everyday act of practical reverence, what we call zazen, chanting, cleaning, taking care of our beautiful place here, is an everyday act of practical reverence. It has such far-reaching effects. We have to believe this. We see it in our own lives, but sometimes we think that's where it stops. No. This is the power of the mandala, radiating without end. So I thought I would share a little bit about what I said to everyone there, and maybe say a few other words before all else. I started with the group. It was quite a large group. I don't know how many people that auditorium held, but it felt like there were 75 or so. We started by emptying our minds of all the miscellaneous meanderings that take us elsewhere, which is what we've just been doing. And then feeling as we empty with the exhalation and receive with the inhalation. This ever-flowing gratitude. And I told them how important it is to return to one, to return to the source, in order to do the work that's desperately needed. What a challenging time for our planet, for our nations, particularly now this nation, our communities, and how easy it is to get caught up in spiraling anxiety, a frenzy from which no helpful actions can emanate. We have to be so aware of what our minds are doing. Yes? Yes. And then I talked to them about trees. This is such an incredible time, isn't it? To be aware of the trees. As the leaves are still clinging to some golden and brown, and filled with light today, and as some trees have let everything go, just bare. There were many wonderful trees on the campus, oaks, maples. Anything else you noticed?
Yeah, there was the willows.
Willows. Anyway, like, you just were walking among them here, right? And probably you felt their presence very strongly as you walked and as you felt the trees' leaves underfoot. I'm sorry, Dairin, you were busy taking care of me. Afterwards, you can walk. So I told them about the prince of the Shakya clan some 2,550 years ago, who was born when his mother entered a grove of flowering trees and leaned against a tree for support. And baby was born. And I told them when he grew up, he left his cosseted life in the palace and became deeply aware of suffering. What did he see when he left the palace?
Suffering.
Hmm?
An old person, a sick person, and a corpse.
An old person, a sick person, and a corpse. All of us will have a chance to experience these. And an ascetic, he saw. He entered into a spiritual quest that brought him into the forest. And eventually, what did he do? Sat under a tree. Vowing not to rise until he had realized true wisdom, the truth of being. And 8 days later, he looked up through the branches of that tree, and what did he see? The morning star. He experienced great enlightenment. He became Shakyamuni Buddha. And when he passed away, trees stood over him. So, trees, I know that each of you has no doubt had some deep experience with a tree. So I said this to the large group of people and asked them to take a few moments to reflect on that experience. And then I told them about my own experience as a young girl when I was feeling so crushed by all manner of very difficult emotions, grief and rage, and many others. And I sat down under a tree. I knew nothing of the Buddha's life or Buddhism, but something called me to this noble and dignified tree. I felt its compassion as I sat down and leaned against it. And that little bubble of misery burst. And I could feel the oneness of my so-called self with tree nature, cloud nature, the grass, the birds, and the sound of the trucks rumbling along Route 22 without any preference, all in that opening moment. And that, I have no doubt, set me on this path. So trees. And then I read this in the New York Times online just before going there, that the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List, you know about this Red List? Yeah? Announced that more than a third of the world's tree species are threatened by extinction. Now we know there are many extinctions going on all the time. It's almost like, oh yeah, what next? But to really have this feeling for these trees and know the deforestation through agriculture, logging, urbanization, and diseases brought by climate change. Somehow, this is happening, and it is not out there. It's personal. We have to know that everything that is happening to our home must be received as personal loss. It's not theoretical. This is our home. So our only home. That's the name of this exhibition that they have of indigenous artists. It's from the book by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He published this book in 2020. And the subtitle of Our Only Home is A Climate Appeal to the World. The great teachers are making this appeal. We are walking on Mother Earth, but are we aware of what we've been doing? We, of course, you may say, well, I'm not a corporation. I'm not responsible. So I told them we're living in an age of unprecedented crises. And I don't have to enumerate them. But they are all symptomatic of the three poisons, aren't they? And none of us can say with assurance that we don't participate in these three poisons. In whatever small ways they do add up. Greed, anger, ignorance. We don't get a free pass. His Holiness wrote to Greta Thunberg, you know her, young climate activist. He wrote to her in 2019, he said, "We humans are the only species with the power to destroy the earth as we know it." But he also said, "Yet if we have the capacity to destroy the earth, so too do we have the capacity to protect it." I said to them, we may feel that the predicament is too complex, that we've gone beyond the tipping point of any restorative efforts. We may shy away from the pain that comes with the recognition that our collective human actions have caused such suffering all across the planet. However, Avoiding engagement is a luxury we cannot afford. We must inform ourselves and cultivate our wisdom mind to address injustice, to bring discernment to the political process. How many days away is Election Day? Right away. We have to do our very best to care for our only home, to care for. And here, as I was sitting this morning, the words of Emma Lazarus came to mind. How many know the sonnet by Emma Lazarus, carved on a bronze plaque on the Statue of Liberty? Yes, her words came to my mind. It's not, the entire sonnet is a little long, but the last few lines are, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. That was written in 1883, and it was to raise money for the pedestal for the statue. And how many of us have had relatives who came here during the end of the 19th century, during the beginning of the 20th century? The homeless, tempest-tossed. And I was also shaken by the realization that the Civil War has never ended. And we are in this predicament. With re-emboldenment, the resurgence of all the forces that led to the Civil War, that the Ku Klux Klan is riding again. That freedom is considered threatening. And thinking back to all the extremes, one following another, here we have a moment in our nation's history where equal numbers seem to be unable to work together. And what a sense of horror it is to consider the rise of fascism as though people no longer read history. You taught middle school. Was civics a part of the curriculum at the time?
Was what?
Civics.
I didn't teach that, so I don't know for sure, but no, I don't know what was taught really. It doesn't make any difference at all.
Yeah. That's one of the key points, isn't it? So right now, I think when people hear the word Constitution, they don't even know what it's about. What? What's the Constitution? Democracy. They think, oh yeah, that's the Democrats. How can we restore the wisdom that's needed to bring about a real change in this country? We have a lot of work to do. It's not going to end on election day. It's going to begin. So I didn't rail on about this at St. Lawrence University. And I did tell them, though, a story that some of you may not know. When Daibosatsu Zendo was being built in the 1970s, we had a lot of financial problems. There was an oil embargo. There was terrible inflation. And sometime after that, Eido Roshi looked back at that time and he said, I couldn't control anything that was happening in the world. I felt powerless, helpless, limited. So he secluded himself in a small cottage at DBZ, the Sun Moon Cottage. He said, I did open house. He said, I opened my heart. I opened my being. I invited the universal energy, sun energy, moon energy, stars energy, animal energy, human energy, tree energy, rock energy, lake energy to come into me. When you do that, he said, you will gradually feel that you are more than you think you are. You can do more than you think you can. In return, you can radiate your own being. You don't have to speak. Your being speaks, and that silent speech is more eloquent than the most eloquent speech. I also told them about Tom Porter when he was on his way to the Parliament of World Religions in 2018. Togan and I were there. And he spoke, some of you remember this story. And he told us that when he was driving up to Toronto, he was really nervous. He felt so unworthy of the task of addressing this incredible gathering. He said, I don't know what to say. And right after he thought that, he heard a voice. he told us, I knew whose voice it was. It was Mother Earth. And she said, I have supported you humans for a long time, but you are causing me great harm. Tell them, she said to Tom while he was driving, tell them, if you don't change your ways, I cannot support you any longer. Now, that was in 2018. And you all know the efforts that are being made, and you all know what is continuing to happen, yes? Yes. So how do we change our ways? I told this group, the Dhammapada puts it this way, our lives are shaped by our minds. We become what we think. We become what we think when we believe what we think. When our thoughts are filled with negativity, fear, despair, hopelessness, it seems impossible to continue. But as Ada Roshi said, when you do open house, you will gradually feel that you are more than you think you are. You can do more than you think you can. And indeed, we are at a point where we must do more than we think we can. We must find ways of coming together, working together, doing this as our vow to uphold the Bodhisattva way of life. And I told them what Nyogen Senzaki said about 100 years ago. You remember this. Essential to Buddhism is the understanding that unless there is significant transformation in the ways we relate to ourselves and others, we will continue to develop social and cultural structures that manifest and reinforce the futile struggle to escape from our sense of lack by taking refuge in acquisitive and aggressive behaviors. We see it all around us, and we have to notice it when it's within us. And he said, I call this understanding that unless there is significant transformation, I call this understanding a radical culture of awakening. So we have to be radicals. We can't just say, oh, it's terrible what's going on. We have to think of ways we can work together, not to push forth some further negativity, but to find how can we, with our Bodhisattva vow, manifest this mind of wisdom and compassion. So the entire talk went on, but you know, it was mainly along those lines, and they had asked Myogen, Connor Keenan, to come from Troy, New York, was over 4 hours trip, to come up and do a professional video. So it'll be out sometime, somewhere, I don't know how these things go, but you can watch it. In the meantime, breathe into this center of energy. Each of you has it. Each of you can transmit it. This is the time. This is the time.